farm to school conference with around 300 attendees, and one of the workshops was on barriers, what you've just seen, from our fellow states in the West in regards to what they're facing. And one of them was the small purchase threshold of $100,000, just the federal limit. And Michigan, it was $20,000. And they were just asking, this is kind of silly, we need to move this, because, and if you're not familiar, many of you are obviously, with the small purchase threshold, but it enables you to go through the informal bidding process with your school district, so you don't have to, with the smaller farmers. Anyway, a couple of people wrote press releases and tried to get the local press to pick up the story of Michigan not having a $20,000 small purchase threshold instead of the federal $100,000, and they couldn't get anyone to bite because their press releases were too long and they weren't interested. So instead, they posted it on a blog, and Representative Gonzalez saw it from one of his staff members, extremely excited, and on Tuesday, the House bill passed, increasing the small purchase threshold in Michigan to $100,000. And it still needs to go through the Senate, but it's an example of someone taking it upon themselves to go ahead and write it, post it, and share with others what they witnessed and what they want to see as improvements. And with that, I'm going to spin a little bit. I want to go into some local press that have been highlighted in regards to farm to school. Very briefly, these are some examples. Debra Kane's lovely article on farm to table. And also, we have Leslie Cole here today from the Oregonian, and she's going to give us a little bit of a flavor of why she's written about farm to school and about the approaches she's taken to farm to school. Yeah.
Thank you. Is this on?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you for having me. I first thought I'd tell you a little bit about who I write for. Food Day is the weekly food section for the Oregonian here in Portland, which is our major daily newspaper. We have 300,000 subscribers, and so as you might imagine, Food Day is about food and cooking. So our readers include lots of busy families who want information that's useful, practical, and relevant to their lives, and they also want information that's entertaining and fun. So I've been tracking a lot of the movement in school food for a couple of years. I've been to, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I went to some local meetings. One was when Marion Nessel came to town, when Chef Ann Cooper came to town, and lots of people attended. There's lots of talk about policy changes and what can happen in our community, and it's all very exciting. It's the same energy I've felt in this room. But as a journalist, at least in our section where it's about features and very concrete subject, I am not really going to report on policy. What people want to read are really the consequences of the policy. So when Abernathy School in Portland started its Scratch Kitchen as a pilot program, and there was scratch cooking every day, I wrote a story about it, and OPB covered it as well. Not OPB, I think it was NPR did a story as well. It's something that readers can really connect with, and especially anyone who eats. So while I like to be kept abreast of what's happening, the steps that are behind the scenes, really when you can expect a story is when big changes happen that people will see every day. Here in Portland, the Harvest of the Month program started 2 years ago, where a vegetable from a local farmer was featured on a menu once a month, and I wrote a story about that. There were a couple stories in our paper. One was about when they served beets and the kids' reaction to the beets, and people are laughing because it actually was kind of perceived to be a negative. It was kind of about how kids hate beets. Right. And so, so even a negative story, or what's perceived as negative, or what might be seen as a negative development by you guys, is interesting and really well read, and it shows people that change is happening. So the other thing I wanted wanted to share with you are some of the questions that readers expect us to answer in a story. And they're the same questions I often ask myself when I want to know if a topic is in fact a story. And number one is there something out there that costs or saves me money? Number two is there something out there that could hurt or help my family? Number three is, what is everyone talking about? And I think school food could fall into that category. And what's farm to school? You know, so explain it, find a really concrete example to tie it to, and it really does a service to the reader. Number four is there something I could do to make things better? That one is relevant to me because when I did write about the Abernathy pilot program, I had so many readers call to say, how can I help? How can I volunteer? What can I do? And, you know, unfortunately, I mean, I directed them to a few places, but the program really isn't far along. I wish I could say there's a wide network of school gardens that are accepting volunteers, but I really couldn't at that point. So that's another judgment that a lot of journalists make is, you know, is it really far enough along that there are things readers could act on? And how do I fit in the world around me? So,
and I should clarify that if you do have any questions, you know, feel free to ask them now, but we will have a question and answer section at the end. And that's extremely helpful. I do want to know as well, as we do build farm to school and we do go into the policy realms and other pieces, do you need to switch off the beat to a different reporter, or would you cover that as well?
I can speak for what happens at our paper. There are probably 10 people in the newsroom who would be interested in different angles of this topic. So when you're thinking about pitching stories, you know, I love it when people pitch to me, but you should also be thinking about calling the business reporter who might be interested in how a local food manufacturer grew its business by working with the schools, or calling a political reporter to talk about the policy angles or legislation that's coming up, or an education reporter. We don't necessarily talk to each other, which is the great irony of working in a paper. You could be sitting 20 feet away from someone, and you're not exchanging a whole lot of information. You see their story in the paper, it's like, wait a minute, isn't that something I could be writing about? So you want to approach people separately, but also let them know, you know, well, I'm also pitching so-and-so. I've also been working with so-and-so. So you can just, you know, just be very transparent about who you're talking to at the paper. And it's also, I think, very worthwhile to get in touch with the editorial board of your paper, right? Mira Kitch is an editorial writer at our paper, and she's written some very powerful pieces about, you know, legislation that we were recommending be passed relating to farm to school. And she said that, she was saying that she loves it when people call her up and just plant the seed and say, they either say, you know, we have a group we'd like to meet with the editorial board and share with you some of the great latest developments in our farm to school work. Or if you just called up someone who works on the editorial page and invited them out for coffee and acted as an educator and basically said, you know, let me share with you some of what I know on this subject. And then maybe 6 months down the road, maybe even a year down the road, that might turn into a story. But we really look to you guys to be our educators, and we're so scattered in so many different directions that, you know, we're not always going to be calling you saying, what are you working on now? So it really, I think, is helpful to have kind of regular, casual contact, even an email, simple phone call, just to let us know what's happening. And again, talk to different people at the paper.
Very helpful. I want to make sure you know that Leslie said she loves being pitched to, so for all those in Oregon.